Restaurant owners are noticing more people skipping out on their bills lately.
Tia Ewing has the latest on the uptick.
Now you see them and now you don't.
You know, I have two major issues with this story. The first is obvious. I'm sure you guys have already guessed, and that, of course, is the crime, the dining and dashing, the going to a restaurant, running up a $200 bill, mostly on alcoholic beverages, and then deciding to turn around and dine and ditch, not pay for your bill, especially when, of course, you're a visitor to the location that you're at, because these particular suspects appear to be from Rochester, New York, visiting Chicago, where they committed this Dine and Dash. But the second problem that I have, and maybe this is a little less obvious because I haven't played that portion of the clip yet, is the people who enable this criminality. And in this case, we're talking about the local news media, because for whatever reason, even though these are suspects that are at large that have yet to be arrested, even though these people appear to have a pattern of this behavior, and by the way, the local news media is likely sure of who they are because they signed up for the reservation for this restaurant using their actual name and phone number, they decided that they were going to blur this surveillance video completely so no other restaurant owners can see who these people actually are. So no other people can be warned based on the criminal activity that they're engaged in, even though it's absolutely disgusting, although I'm sure that there's some progressive idiot out there that sees these three large black women running up a bill, again, mostly on alcoholic beverages, saying that they're innocent Beba Angel Aladdins who are just trying to feed themselves because they're starving, even though when you look at these women, even with the significant blur, they in no way, shape, or form look like they've ever missed a meal. Now, we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about this. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Now you see them and now you don't. We blur the video because the trio hasn't been charged yet, but you can't miss that distinctive blue wig and the massive tab they left behind.
Again, why do they need to blur this entire video, the whole entire screen? Because the suspects have yet to be charged. They have yet to be arrested for this particular crime. It's absolutely absurd. What if you had footage of a kidnapping? Would you, as the local news media, blur the footage of the kidnapper so nobody could see who it is? Because the kidnapper hasn't been charged with anything, and we wouldn't ever want you guys to actually understand who's committing this crime, even though the suspect is at large. The same standard should be held right here, and by the way, the same standard is not held right here, even at this local news media station, because we've seen this before where a black criminal will commit a crime, a heinous crime, and they will be blurred on the same local news media station that will show a white accused perpetrator, a la a Daniel Penny, who did not have his image blurred prior to being shown on the news or during the perp walk, when again, you had suspects accused of worse crimes, more serious crimes, intentional homicide, actual murder, that by the way, were likely to be actual murderers, not somebody defending others like Penny was, that would be blurred in contrast to Daniel Penny. Again, it's an absolutely absurd double standard, and these local news media affiliates are pretending like we don't notice what's going on here. They're pretending like we don't get the special treatment. And I just want to point out that the Daily Mail has some footage of these individuals sitting at their table, and even though they do blur the faces of them, it's only a partial blur of their face, not the entire screen, because oh my god, it would be really terrible if all of us knew who was dining and dashing. What would the other restaurants do with that information? Maybe, just maybe, they would call the police and maybe not serve them or make them pay in advance based on the fact that they seem to serially commit these crimes. Now, of course, here at the Actual Justice Warrior channel, we do not play this game where we don't end up showing you images of fugitives from justice. If there is an image to put out there for the world to see so that these people may be brought to face the consequences, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna share it with you. And it turns out, if you go to the Instagram of one of the employees that appears in this particular segment, she had posted the unblurred footage, and you have clear views of their faces. Now again, these are the accused. It has not yet been proven, but in addition to that, this same Instagram actually had a follow-up post where they shared the profile associated with the individuals that tagged them in the Dine and Dash post, and it turns out that that contains a lot of unflattering images that maybe, just maybe, I don't feel comfortable showing you. But the plot twist is that it is possible that one of these Dine Dashers, the main poster of the Dine Dashing, is actually an owner of a restaurant back in Rochester, New York. Now, again, innocent until proven guilty. I'll link the profile for you, but I'm not going to show you all of these unflattering images that these people ended up posting.
The server went to the table. They asked for the ticket to be split. She left from this table behind me to a few steps away, clicked the button. As she left, they got up one at a time and walked out.
This is going to seem like a little bit of a side tangent. This is going to seem like it's unrelated, but I think I need to instill a principle on you guys out there in the audience, because you are my flock and I must preach to you. And in my opinion, in my belief, you should not be splitting the ticket. Stop doing this. It really does bring out the ugly side of humanity, because what ultimately ends up happening when you split the ticket is you end up finding out everybody's different tip theory of doubling the tax, or, oh, it's 10%, no, it's 20%. And honestly, I'm just not interested in it. Whenever I go to a restaurant, I always just try to cover the tab. If people want to give you money later afterwards, that's whatever. But in reality, as an adult, as a man, it is your moral obligation to not get into this petty dispute where everybody's breaking down the bill into its different components and saying, oh, well, you drank 2 sodas and I only had a coffee, and a coffee cost 30 cents less than a soda, but I got a refill, but that refill was a free refill. Like, enough. Stop doing it. Be a man, be an adult, and pay the damn bill. Or designate somebody beforehand that is going to pay the bill and just get them back the next time. Honestly, I'm going to make a rule on this. I'm going to make a ruling. I'm going to say the AJW Code of Conduct, henceforth from this day until your last day, is one person pays the damn bill. And if you have to work it out later, if somebody has to get the next bill the next time, then that's whatever. But just shut your stupid faces and stop splitting the ticket. Honestly, it maybe should be a crime on its own to split a ticket 3 ways, and everybody has to throw in their credit cards, and then everybody has to dispute the tip, and then people wonder whether or not they put the full tip on the bill rather than partial tip. I'm just sick of it. I'm tired of it. Enough with that nonsense. But even separate from that, these people split the bill, as obnoxious as that is, and then decided that they were going to Dine and Dash, which makes them doubly evil, which means that you should probably serve about 10 years in prison for this particular crime, in my opinion. If I was the dictator of the universe, this would be the rule. 1 ticket, 1 table, 1 voice.
3 days ago, the 3 women from Rochester, New York visited Soul Vibes in the Near North neighborhood to celebrate a birthday and left behind a surprise, an unpaid tab of over $200.
So again, I just want to freeze frame on this particular bill right here, because what you could see is that the lemon drop flight, the alcoholic beverages, is $68. That's 2 right there. And then you have another lemon drop flight, which is billed separately for $34, meaning that over $100 of this $206 bill is in fact just based on the cost of alcohol. And by the way, the food overall actually seems kind of cheap in comparison to what I would see in New York City. Again, it depends on the portion size, but it seems like the garlic bread is just $2, which is pretty damn impressive. Although in some places, I think they give you garlic bread for yourself, but you know, fried chicken wings, $26, all seems pretty reasonable. And again, especially when you realize that most of this is spent on alcohol, most of this is spent on liquor. So if these individuals were really just starving, obese women, they didn't need the alcohol, they didn't need the liquor. But again, they weren't. These people are scammers, they're fraudsters. They bragged about it on social media to add insult to injury. And by the way, throughout the course of this video, as somebody who never worked as a waiter myself, I ended up discovering something about the restaurant industry that I also find to be an egregious violation of what is acceptable, in my humble opinion.
They actually ran out the door and ran and hid behind a service vehicle that was in traffic.
They decided to dine and dash after devouring chicken wings, Alfredo, and washing it all down with flights of drinks.
So this is again why you need to unblur the video, because with the video blurred, I am left to speculate on the actual size of these women, and the fact that surveillance cameras were able to pick them up, even though they were hiding behind a service van, which is a significantly large vehicle, leads me to believe that these women were so enormous they can't even hide behind a van. Again, this is absolutely crucial information. And in addition to that, I will also point out that the pre-tax and pre-gratuity bill was around $200. I think the total goes up significantly higher to around $262. But the fact is, the majority of that bill, the again, tax and all that bill, was of course the alcohol.
It's not violent, but it's a crime, and it affects us, and it affects our bottom dollar, and it affects our team members.
They were spotted on surveillance, leaving one by one within 30 seconds of the server stepping away. They also forgot that they signed up on the wait list before being seated, including their name and phone number. And to add insult to injury, they posted this onto social media, thanking the restaurant for the free food while laughing at waitstaff like Chloe Jackson.
So first of all, I just want to make this clear. These people did not forget that they signed up for the wait list. They're incredibly stupid. They planned to do this. They posted it on social media bragging about this, and they didn't realize that when they gave their full name and phone number and an email address, that somebody would say, hey, look, I actually think it's these people that are behind this, and that would ultimately end up leading to consequences down the line. Now, again, one of the consequences that they should face is to have their faces and names plastered on our TV screens, but the local news media is not obliging because, oh my god, innocent baby angel, overweight food thieves that are robbing this particular restaurant and bragging about it. Why don't we have the social media handle? Why aren't we seeing all the information that we should be seeing about these particular thieves? Because there are choices being made in order to benefit the criminal that I find to be absolutely disgusting.
I'm here 3 days a week.
Their greedy crime comes with a much heavier cost.
Some places do make the servers come out and pay for those bills, but Fab and Soul Vibes here, they don't make us pay for it. That's really grateful because $300, $400 could really break our bank for that day.
So a couple of things. They have to interview the waitress in this particular instance because people are so dumb and so deranged by left-wing ideology that they'll excuse this because they're just doing this to a business. Now, I'm not sure if Soul Vibes is a black-owned business, and I'm not sure if that changes the calculation for many of these lefties that will praise this criminality or excuse this criminality as just poor, desperate people, but they end up showing you, and something that I didn't know and I didn't realize, that it is the waitress in many places that end up paying the cost of a Dine Dash, which, to be clear, if you are a restaurant owner, I can't abide by that. You can't let that happen. It's not their responsibility that these criminal customers ended up leaving on the bill, and I find that to be a disgusting practice, and I'm actually interested in praising Soul Vibes in and around the Chicago area for not having this particular policy, and for these owners not having this policy in any of their locations. And by the way, I actually ended up looking at the website of this particular restaurant. The food looks really good. I mean, I know it's a soul food place, so it's supposed to taste good. That's the whole point. Maybe it's not all that good for you, but it looks really nice, like a stellar place. And if you're in and around the area and it's not in a terrible neighborhood, then I'm going to say go out there, AJW listeners, viewers, whatever you want to be called. Eat the food and then leave me a comment to tell me if it's actually that good, because it looks that good. And if you get this waitress, leave her a generous tip, because honestly, it's ridiculous that she has to engage with these kind of low caliber people, these kind of thieving people that she probably ended up giving good service to. She probably bent over backwards to make sure their alleged birthday celebration was top tier. And again, the results of that was that these people dipped out, and then they were too big to even hide behind a service van.
Sadly, Dine Dash incidents are on the rise. The owners run 2 Soul Vibes locations and 3 I Can't Believe It's Not Meat restaurants. And in the last 6 months, they've seen an uptick in these type of incidents. These are just a few of the incidents they've recorded.
It's ministry of pennies and nickels. So when you get these Dine and Dash incidences, you know what I mean? You know, the consumer or the people that are doing this Dine and Dash might think, oh, it's just $100. Yeah, but it's hurting the bottom line.
So yeah, they own a couple of other locations, and they actually produce more footage of people dining and dashing, and for whatever reason, one of the pieces of footage has an even larger African-American woman, if we're going to be politically correct, a person of size and a person of color, dining and dashing from this particular restaurant, and of course, she is with another individual that also leaves shortly after her. And I just want to point out a couple of things. First and foremost, we could apparently solve the black obesity crisis by just giving these women checks like they would get from a restaurant, because that woman dashed out of there really quickly, and if she ran like that a little bit more often, maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't be all that large. But in addition to that, Obviously, this is blurred again in order to aid the criminal. Did they check if this person was somebody who was arrested or not? Or did they just decide, oh, well, I guess other people are going to have to deal with the fact that so many Dine and Dashers are in and around this area, to the point where these restaurants have surveillance footage from the 5 different locations that they own of this occurring. Maybe, just maybe, it would be beneficial if they showed their faces so other restaurants in the area would know who they are, not serve them, or call the police when they show up so they could face accountability for their actions. But again, the local news media is enabling the criminals right here, saying, hey, look, they haven't been charged with anything. The police haven't been able to identify them as of right now. We could get the public to aid them in identifying who these people are, but we're not going to do that because the police haven't identified them, because we're ridiculous over at the local news in the city of Chicago. But again, this is where we're at in terms of dining and dashing, and it's really unfortunate that some restaurants actually put this on the server. And again, I would just recommend that you tip your server a little bit extra just to help them out, especially if you live in one of these crap areas.
Now, a police report was made. Chicago police are now investigating. If charged, the suspects could face a Class A misdemeanor for theft of services under the amount of $500. That's punishable by up to 1 year in jail and a $2,500 fine.
So I would definitely give them the $2,500 fine, and depending on how many times they did this, I would give them the full year in jail as a consequence for these particular actions. But the local news media is not interested in actually helping catch these particular perpetrators, because if they were, they would be plastering their faces on the local news media. Again, these extra rules, these extra barriers to you guys getting information due to the woke politics at these stations is ridiculous and absurd from top to bottom, and it needs to be corrected. We all understand innocent until proven guilty, but these are active fugitives. It may be a petty crime, it may be no big deal to many people out there in the audience, but the thing is, this adds up, and these restaurants operate on thin margins already. There's been a lot of damage since the pandemic to the restaurant industry, and anyone and everyone who makes their lives harder, who makes the lives of servers harder, who commits crimes in order to do so, should be held accountable for those actions. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, then show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about dining and dashing becoming very much more common in the city of Chicago. Till next time.